Hey everyone, and welcome back to Newegg TV. My name is Paul, and today we have a special guest here in the studio. This is Pi from SLR Lounge. How's it going, Pi?
Not too bad, Paul.
Excellent, and thank you for being here. We have a build for you today, but before we jump into that and before we jump into what exactly you do and what exactly SLR Lounge is, we must thank our sponsors. That's right. First off, I'm going to double check our list. All the hardware that you see right here, we're going to be putting together in a build for use with SLR Lounge. You guys are going to be doing some benchmarking with it as well. But our primary sponsors here are going to be Intel, of course. We also have Asus, Rosewill, PNY providing some SSDs and some memory, and also, of course, our main storage from Western Digital. So there's a quick rundown of the parts for the, well, not all the parts, we're going to go over those individually, but let's talk with Pi. He's our guest. How's it going, Pi?
It's going good. Thanks for having me in.
You're still doing well. So let's start off with you personally. What is your primary role at SLR Lounge?
So I'm the editor-in-chief for SLR Lounge. It's an online blog and magazine, and that's basically where we teach photographers. We educate photographers, giving them resources, educational DVDs and products, and just all sorts of news, anything basically photography.
Okay.
And then we also run a actual photography studio, and that's Lynn and Jirsa Photography out of Orange County. So we kind of do two different things, but they go hand in hand, I think.
Okay, so if you guys are interested in the tutorials, slrlounge.com.
Yep.
So head over there if you want to see some of Pi's tutorials. Also, we'll post a link in the description as well if you're interested. In you guys, I mean, you could be hired out, right? You're looking for more business all the time?
We can always be hired out.
All right. So check the link in the description. We'll post that there if you guys are interested. But let's talk about photography in general and photography as it relates to computing, because often these days, since everything has gone digital, they go hand in hand. And especially when you're doing high-end photography or filmmaking, you guys also kind of dabble in both?
Yeah, we do kind of everything, and we do a lot of production stuff under SLR Lounge, and we're also doing tons of photography and videography work under Lynn and Jirsa Photography. So we kind of get to see a whole host of things.
And have you found that as kind of the resolutions increase, as you're working with more 1080 video or extremely high resolution photography, working with raw photos, does it eat up a lot of space, and is it very computer intensive for the actual when you're doing kind of your post-production stuff?
Yeah, well, interesting things have happened like over the last 2-3 years. We've seen like major shifts in digital imaging, and so a couple of years ago, our raw files on these, I call this a prosumer camera. A 5D Mark III, it can create professional level images just fine, but it's kind of prosumer in that the price range is now available. It makes it available for consumers, or consumers that have the money to spend on their gadgets.
I have a Mark II, and I'm by no means a photo professional, but yeah, it's much more accessible these days to get like a higher end camera, and I really like the broad spectrum of usage of this. You can have somebody like me with really limited photography experience who might buy that and just play around with it, but I mean, I've seen the 5D Mark II used for like feature-length films and stuff like that.
Exactly. So, and that's the amazing thing, is that over the past couple of years, this has happened where really these cameras are able to do not only still photography but also video, and they do everything very well, and so it kind of opens up the market, to say. So the crazy thing is that with our raw files, we've gone from say 8 to 10 megs in raw file size up to 25 megs now on the 5D3. We're going up to, like, say on a D800 or a D800E, we're going up to close to 60 to 80 megs per file. We're really expanding the amount of image or information that's captured in these images. But the thing is that while we're getting nicer camera gear, we're not necessarily looking towards, oh, I have a better camera now, I should upgrade my computer and hardware. And so we're realizing that, and it's weird because you don't see computer hardware actually moving at the same pace as digital imaging. I mean, we have cameras now today that are shooting 2, 3, 4 times the resolution and quality of images as just a few years back. You're not seeing those kind of jumps in computing. So with a studio like Lynn and Jirsa Photography, we do around 200 events per year. We do around 400 to 500 shoots, and so we're processing 1.2 to 1.5 million images every single year.
And you multiply that by 25 to 30 megs per image. That's, I mean, just storage space alone, that's adding up very quickly.
Storage space and processing power, all those things. If we can find ways to save a second per image when processing these images, we're saving hundreds of hours as a studio per year. And so these types of things actually become major concerns, and it's why we spend so much time looking into hardware and what we need to have to be able to basically process and work efficiently.
Okay, so when it comes to hardware, we've already mentioned really quick you're using a 5D Mark III. I imagine you probably have lots of different cameras that you guys work with your studio?
We do. We actually have probably $100,000 of gear. So we were using everything. So from 5D3s to 60s, 70s, we have Nikon D700, D800s. We use pretty much whatever fits the situation. Probably most of our photographers are on the 5D3 right now.
Okay. And when it comes around to the post-processing side, after you've taken the pictures, after you've transferred them over to whatever machine that you're using, what types of software are you working with these days?
Primarily, we're working with Adobe Lightroom.
Okay.
And right now we're on Lightroom 5. And the reason why is that there's also other software like for raw processing, like Capture One. There's also Aperture for Apple. What we found is that Lightroom is kind of in that sweet spot of as far as quality, performance, and overall usability. Capture One gives you a little bit better results, but then there's also kind of this train wreck of an interface to kind of try and work with, and it slows things down and it makes it really difficult.
Okay.
And then on the other side we have Aperture, which is kind of well, just we can't quite get all the features and all the processing power out of. So Lightroom is kind of in this sweet spot right in between, which makes it really great for processing large numbers of images.
Okay, and now the machine that we're going to be building today is going to be using two Xeon processors. So it's going to be really core heavy, it's going to be really thread heavy, not necessarily as pure frequency heavy as you might get with, say, the mainstream X79 platform or something like a 3930K or a 3970X. Have you found with Lightroom specifically, does it tend to like one means of processing better than the other?
Yeah, well, what we found so far is that Lightroom is very, well, it's basically optimized for single core, so a single CPU, and what really matters is clock speed. But it's going to be really interesting to test because we want to build a system that essentially work well for still editing and also for video editing because we're doing so much video capture. And so we want to kind of, we actually have another system in the studio right now that's an overclock single core unit, and we're going to actually compare these two builds and just see overall inside of Lightroom, inside of Premiere, and all these different applications that we're using, how the performance fares kind of against each other.
Excellent, and that'd be definitely very interesting to see the actual use case scenario from a studio comparing one to the other. So I guess stay tuned for that as well.
Yeah, we're interested to know as well.
That will be a follow-up video, of course, once everything's assembled. We're talking about this, we haven't built the computer yet. So let's say, apart from the photo editing side, you guys also do some work with video. So when it comes to that, what software are you using for that, Premiere?
We're using primarily Premiere, yeah. We kind of switched over from Final Cut over to Premiere, and everything now is Windows-based in the studio, so we're Premiere.
And we've been using Premiere here for quite a while as well. I really like the Mercury playback engine, how it works with the NVIDIA cards. But recently we have the new version of Premiere, the entirely new Creative Suites, which is now Creative Cloud from Adobe. And this isn't necessarily an Adobe commercial. We should point that out. Adobe is not a sponsor of this, but both of us happen to use their software quite a bit. So moving on with Creative Cloud, we now have the introduction of OpenCL as well as CUDA support. So that's another exciting thing to see, is that we'll also actually be starting to use AMD cards as well as NVIDIA cards with that. For our particular build right here, we have a PNY Quadro K5 or K4000, I should say. So that's another interesting thing. A lot of times when we do videos, people say, what's the difference between a workstation card versus, say, a desktop or like a 3D gaming card? Whereas you can use the 3D gaming cards for some workstation applications. Also probably be interesting to see how the K4000 fares compared to like what video cards are you guys currently using?
I believe the system that we're going to pit this against is a GTX 680. Okay. So it's a 3 gigabyte card, but it's primarily like a gaming card. You know, what's interesting is that with Adobe Premiere, with CS6 at least, we had this short list of compatible cards, and now with Adobe CC or Premiere CC, it's really expanded. So now we can put this against the gaming card and see exactly how the difference is, especially for the price point, because the Quadro cards are at a higher price point. So
that is true. And
then we have, like you said, AMD too. So it'll be interesting to see how AMD performs.
I know with the Quadro cards, a lot of work goes into testing and validation. So different independent software vendors that they might work with, they'll spend more time with that to make sure that the cards are going to work perfectly with the driver stack that they set up. But again, it's harder to describe that. Often I find it's more interesting to see a use case scenario. So very interested to see you guys' testing and benchmarking once this system's actually built.
Minor things. Well, we do need to build the system.
We do need to build the system. All right. So a rough segue over to that. Let's go ahead and kick off this build. I'm going to start off by doing a quick rundown of all the parts. So first off here, the core of the machine is going to be based on a couple Intel Xeon processors. We're going to be setting up two of these. These happen to be Intel Xeon E5 2650s. And as mentioned, we have two of them. This is not the right box for that. We're just using that as a set piece, but I just wanted to come clean with that. Apart from that, for storage, we have a couple PNY 480 gigabyte SSDs. I've recently done some benchmarking with these. They're very fast and a lot of storage available with that. Also from PNY, we have 8 by 8 gigs of their Accelerate memory kits. So these are all 2 by 8 gig kits. They're CAS latency 9, and I believe they're 1600 speed. Yes, they are. 1600 speed, 1.5 volts. So we're going to be populating every single DIMM slot in this motherboard. Also for mechanical storage, we have Western Digital 4 terabytes. So that should hold at least 3 or 4 of those raw pictures.
2 images.
Maybe 3, maybe. Depends. Okay. Moving on from there, let's talk about the motherboard. I suppose this is the Asus Z9 PE-D8 workstation. This is a workstation motherboard, dual socket 2011. This is the first time we've worked with this motherboard specifically, so we're excited to try that out. Above that, we have our video card. That's the NVIDIA Quadro K4000. This one's also provided by PNY, as you can see there on the side. So we're going to get that up and running. Hiding behind here, which I did want to point out as well, we have an Asus 12-speed Blu-ray burner. So if you want to do some archiving or whatever onto Blu-rays, you guys can do that. For cooling, we have a couple Rosewill Ilos air coolers. Pretty simple, direct copper contact air coolers. Should keep the Xeons nice and cool, and bigger fans means they should also run pretty quiet. Below that, we have our power supply. Since this is a pretty beefy build and there's a lot of upgrade potential in the future, we have the Rosewill Lightning 80 Plus Gold rated 1300 watt power supply. And finally, of course, our chassis, the Rosewill Blackhawk Ultra, which is there, making Pi look kind of small by comparison, but that's what it's there for. Okay, let's dive in and let's put this thing together. And we're back. As you can see, Pi and I have been hard at work. We got the entire system all put together.
When he says hard work, he means himself.
Pi did most of the work, most of the heavy lifting and installation, also all the cable management. But yeah, we can see everything is installed in there. We got our drives down here in the lower right, optical drives up here on top. Got our Rosewill Ilos coolers, both of them right there on top of our Intel Xeon processors. Also got the Quadro K4000 installed there. It's tucked away. Plenty of expandability options are available for this, so if you want to drop in some more cards or whatever. Also tons of room up here for additional storage, and you got plenty of SATA ports available on the motherboard. But I'm just stalling, really. That's all I'm doing right now.
Stalling to push the power button?
Yeah, well, that's your job. I've already assigned it to Pi, so why don't we fire up?
Wait, so you did all the work, but I'm going to push the power button? How is that fair to you?
Well,
can we push it together?
If it doesn't work, I can blame you, and if it does work, I can also blame you. All right, moment of truth. Nothing. Hold on, I can fix it. All right, let's try again. Is it working now?
Nope.
It's still not working? Surely we've done something to anger this machine. Maybe I didn't.
Do I need to push power on the motherboard first?
Maybe I didn't wire up the front panel correctly. I thought I did.
Well, I can push power on the motherboard.
Yeah, try that. Is it lit up? Ah, front panel's not wired up correctly. That's my bad. I'll fix it. But apart from that, the system does seem to be working properly. Let's see if we have a post. Ooh, look, we have red LEDs going on in there. Some red LEDs up in the top and up here. All right, we got our Asus logo over there on the screen as well. So we seem to have achieved post. Although there's no speaker plugged in right now, so it's not going to beep at us. But I am glad to say that the machine is working. That's
looking good.
Definitely looks real nice. Oh, there we go. BIOS. Ah, we've achieved the BIOS. Okay. So next up, we're gonna do some software installation on this. I think we're gonna go for Windows 8 on this one, since it's a new build. And then we can expect to see some benchmarks or some feedback from you guys. Where would folks go if they wanted to view that content?
Well, we're going to put it through its paces, especially we're interested in Lightroom performance and Premiere performance. We'll be posting everything to slrlounge.com. So it's slrlounge.com.
slrlounge.com?
Yeah.
And, you guys can catch up on the benchmarking and the comparisons that they're going to do for this build. Awesome.
Totally.
All right, that's going to wrap it up for this video, guys. Once again, we've had Pi here from SLR Lounge, who've been doing this build right here. If you check out the description down below, we should have a link there to at least a wish list with this build. Possibly, I'm not sure if we're going to have it set up as a combo, but
we'll see how it does.
Either way, the link will be down there, so you guys can check out all the components that have been used here. That's all for this one, though. If you'd like to see more tech videos, check out Newegg TV, of course. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it. We'll see you all next time on Newegg TV.